Here's the way I'm putting it to Warrior fans. Like, are Warriors really going to acquire Paul George and give him a 4-year deal? That to me would be. I got a question for you. That is a wow.
Would you go out and buy a ticket or season tickets or just be more excited as a Warrior fan if that news broke as opposed to a team that didn't make the playoffs running it back saying, hey, we don't know how good our young players are. We like them, but come out and see us.
Well, first of all,
those are, to me, just the exact opposite ends of.
Well, and they are to me, too, because you're essentially what you're talking about is winning the press conference. You're talking about all the excitement.
Yeah.
Would Paul George create more excitement? Okay, maybe. What does that mean? You're selling out every game anyway. But you got to win.
Yeah, that's what I'm just making the playoffs, Steiny.
Well, I'm not assuming Paul George equals winning.
And Steph, I like it. A guy that can defend, pass, create his own shot, shoot the three. What box doesn't he check outside he's not a champ? Durant wasn't a champ when he came here. Guess how that worked out?
The box he doesn't check for me is
age.
Well, but just direction-wise. He doesn't fit the direction.
They got a Steph. I love that. I'm interrupting. They got a Steph Curry direction. You can't have it both ways.
I don't want it both ways.
They got Curry. They've won. They got to the greatest heights. They've been a dynasty.
That's right.
Now
move on. Move on, Joe.
Yeah, it's not that easy, man.
Well, it is that easy. And I'm not saying trade Curry. But I'm also not saying don't wreck the next 5 years with a wish, with a hope. That's all. Let's go to Riff Raff in Daly City. Hey, Riff Raff, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Doing well.
Yeah, my wife's Asian. She calls you guys yin and yang, man. You guys are great.
I think that's
hello.
That's okay to say.
Ebony and ivory.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll make it real quick. I'm 65 years old. Sports dynasties die, and they die ugly. And typically what happens is the team is not very good for a long time. I've seen it with the Oakland A's a few times, the Niners, the Giants. And it's happening with the Warriors. And what doesn't get brought up a lot is not just their athletic age, but the fact that these guys played in June 5 years in a row. It takes its wear and tear. Ooh. And there's no load management in the playoffs. These guys are worn out. God love them. The fourth championship was their swan song, I believe, and their last hurrah was when they got beat up by the Lakers a couple of years ago. At this point, they don't have any young superstars coming up, I don't see. And outside of getting the Joker and Ant-Man, which isn't going to happen, I really think it's over, and let's just enjoy it, man. So you guys tell me what you think. Love you all.
Appreciate it.
I would ask, go ahead, Steiny. Yeah, how do you enjoy when watching Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Steve Kerr walk up?
Forget Draymond Green. I don't care about Draymond Green.
How do you enjoy them not winning? That's what I'm asking.
Well, my thing is this. They won 46 games. Okay, they were either 10th or whatever. 46 games. All right? I think if you continue to kick the can down the road, Paul George, you risk being lousy for years. They won 46 games. Like, people say, oh, what do you want, Steiny? What do you want? They have a declining and an aging core. They won 46 games last year with that core and with a group of youngsters who are young, and we don't know what they're going to be. I actually see a light at the end of the tunnel where if they would just keep creeping up a little, maybe when Steph Curry retires, they won't have 3 years decimated. That's what I'm advocating. Because I think if you go all in on Paul George or somebody like that, and you give up picks down the road, I think I don't know if you're inviting 2 or 3 years of really tough sledding, but I actually do look at this. Okay, they won 46 games. They got 4 young guys who were in the rotation. How about if they play a little more next year? And maybe they'll get better more than the old guys get worse. And that's how you're better. And of course you try to do something around the edges. They get a big guy, something like that.
Let me read
I know
this
that's not exciting to you.
No, it's not.
I know it isn't. I get it. I get it.
How can I be mad at it? It's how you feel, but Steiny, it feels like it's coming from a guy that's reserved that, you know what? We ain't got a chance.
So because they have a 1% chance, you are good. Like, it's like you're making a bet that you're pretty sure you're going to lose. It's going to have ramifications down the line. It just feels desperate.
Well, let me read this to you.
And I don't like. Here's the thing.
It's signed to you, but go ahead.
Here's what I think. If you're really going to go out and get Paul George and sign him to 4 years, that to me sounds desperate. I don't think they're desperate right now. Like, I don't think they should feel like they're in a desperate position.
But they shouldn't feel good about not making the playoffs. Because that's the reality of it.
Go into the offseason, try to get better.
But the offseason just started, and yet every outlet has the Warriors going big game hunting.
Right, and it looks like to me that feels like they're trying to make a desperate move in the hope that they'll catch lightning in a bottle with a hell of a veteran team.
It's interesting you say that because regardless of what happens, Steiny, the rat on the table brought to you by Atco is Steph and Dre's time is ticking. Regardless of if you stand pat, that's the rat on the table. So I guess it's about how do you want that to look? How do you want to feel about that? And do you owe Steph and Dre every opportunity to get you get a veteran in here that on paper you feel better about their chances of trying to make some noise as opposed to doing what you're talking about, letting the youngsters, grow. And if I'm Steph or Dre, I'm looking around like, man, this ain't how we envisioned it.
Well, you know what? Like, who are Steph and Dre who are declining to scoff at the 4 guys who are getting better? Especially Draymond.
Hey, I love that word scoff, but what if they're not scoffing? What if they're looking around like, can you get us some more seasoned guys like a Paul George?
Okay, go get him.
It's going to cost us something, but you won't be around when we have to pay it.
Exactly.
Sean John, Steiny, real quick. Steiny, the next 5 years from the YouTube chat is a wish and a hope regardless of the way the team goes. If you're being honest, why not go all in with the best players? Because in history, who's still good? Who's still going to be around? And I kind of...
Again, the cost is too great to acquire... You're going to acquire Paul George at 34. You know what? You're going to do, here's what it's kind of like. You're going to do what every team didn't do when the 49ers dangled Brandon Ayuk. You wanted that team to give up something and then they must pay him. That's the way I look at Paul George. It's like, okay, you get him. Now you lose picks and a couple players, and you have to pay him. Wow. Woo! That's risky to me. That's all. That to me sounds risky. So what's my solution, Steiny? What's your solution for it? I told you what I would do. I try to be better than a 46-win team next year, and I try to make some moves around the edges, but by and large, I don't think there's going to be a great move out there. 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's go to Parker is in San Francisco. Hey, Parker, how you doing?
Good, man. I just wanted to say a couple quick things. First of all, I think Guru is completely right. I kind of think you're wrong, Simon. There's nothing really. It's not draft picks or prospects. It's just one. There's no prospects on our team that are actually good. Like Jonathan Kuminga's not getting game plan for. Moses Moody isn't getting game plan for. You can give these guys up. I think the front office is just afraid because they completely missed on Wiseman. And if Joe Lacob has to admit that he missed on Kuminga and Wiseman, he's going to have to admit that he doesn't know what he's doing as far as the draft goes. So I don't think you're not giving up picks and the prospects. Just give up one or the other. And Paul George is worth it. They didn't have a scoring wing. They didn't have a defender last year. Steph Curry's still one of the top 5 players in the NBA. Like, I don't think this is a all-in type of move. It's just one or the other, and I just don't know why the fan base is so attached to these players that really haven't really shown anything.
Good call, Parker. I agree.
Steph Curry's not a top 5 player.
All right, top 10.
Okay, fine, but that's important because the top 5 players go to the postseason. Embiid goes to the postseason. Doncic goes to the postseason. Jokic goes to the postseason.
Well, they have more help. So much
they
about
have more help.
And well, he was missing a guy for umpteen games too. You're right. You know what I mean? So like that. I know it's ridiculous, but it matters. We're putting that. And guess what? Let's just say your name was Tony. You would be somewhere saying, you know what? That damn Steph Curry didn't get his team in the playoffs. You would be right. But if you don't bring up, his right-hand man wasn't around for 25, like that matters though, man. Or right. Steph has to pay the price of that.
Yeah, that's right. That's called being a superstar. 707 925 Steiny. And okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. This is where I'm just I
can't wait to hear.
We can do it with a smile. But we disagree. Steiny, a 1% chance? You're joking, right? Curry and the Warriors in the playoffs have a puncher's chance against anyone. Steiny, you also said the Warriors were done a few years ago when they went on to... okay. Again, and so did Joe Lacob and Bob Myers. They didn't think they were going to win in 2022. Okay. All right. You haven't made the playoffs in 3 or 5 years, but... like that, but you'll definitely make it next year. You're definitely going to make the playoffs next year. Why? I don't know why. Why would you assume you're going to make the playoffs next year?
Because you got arguably a top 10 player, for some top 5. You got Draymond Green, and if you're healthy, Steiny, this team should make the playoffs. That's what, you know what, even Goo? You were shocked. Well,
you know what, Goo?
I'm not going to speak for you. We all were. I couldn't believe they didn't make it. I couldn't believe they were teetering at the 10th, and Houston almost caught them. Like, what the F is going on around here? And the maddening part is I don't even know who to blame. But I do blame Draymond for his absence. That's number one. Okay, and then Clay's taking strays.
2 years in a row, they're essentially a 45-win team. 2 years in a row, 44 and 46.
Those are facts.
Well, so, like...
But you can't celebrate the 46 when everybody around you got better, too.
44 wins 2 years ago, 46 last year. Again, why, forget Paul George, why would you think this team's going to win 53 next year? And you know what? If you say, I don't know if they can.
I'm just saying availability for one.
Go get Paul George.
And I think or somebody like him. I think that's what they're doing.
We'll see. It's going to come at a hefty cost. 888-957-9570 is the number. Here is what we're talking about.
Paul George, frankly, wants 4 years. He wants a full-out max. And there are a number of teams out there, I am told, that are prepared to give it to him, who are prepared to trade for him. One of those teams potentially is up the coast in Golden State. Golden State is big fish hunting. Remember, last trade deadline, they put a call in about LeBron James. They are sniffing around big deals. If Paul George is willing to leave, they would like to be an option for him. But any of these places that Paul would need to go via trade would have to get worked out with the Clippers and would have to get worked out by Saturday. The Clippers, I think, are in a position where they kind of want to call Paul's bluff that he would actually want to leave his hometown of L.A. So that's one of the most interesting things to watch in terms of stare downs between now and this weekend.
Wow, Wendy. And Steiny, I don't know Steve Ballmer, but I love him. I love his enthusiasm. I consider him a Joe Lacob, a guy that cares and is at every game. You're moving into a new building and you're going to say bye-bye to Paul George and break that up. It's a
good point.
I don't want to say I don't think it's going to happen, but if they're playing chicken or possum or what have you, I just don't see Ballmer saying bye-bye to Paul George, who may be the best out of the three you have in regard to Kawhi when you look at availability and Harden and just shape. So, but hey, maybe, and Paul George, good Lord, what if he came here with his podcast and Draymond? I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah, they'd be first team all podcast. No doubt.
Evan, I didn't think about that.
No doubt.
The microphone gang.
888-957-9570 is the number. Technically, the offseason free agency hasn't started, but it really, really feels like it has. Couple texts.